Picture doing the work, real work in your own community, the kind that changes a life, and still not being able to put a single dollar behind it because the money has nowhere legal to land. This is where most mission-driven businesses quietly die, not from a lack of heart, from a lack of structure. My guest today refused to let that happen. She serves Haitian newcomer girls and women across Massachusetts, and the people she serves do not pay her. Organizations and corporations do. She built a business model that most people have never seen named, and she built it on a foundation she laid with Build Your Own. Today, she's going to show you exactly how. This is the Build Your Own Podcast, all things business.
Welcome to Build Your Own Podcast. All things business, structure, strategy, scale. I'm Tricia. I help entrepreneurs build structurally sound businesses designed to last. Through expert insight and real conversation, we bring you clarity, strategy, and system for growth. Let's build.
We are back, business owners. You know the standard here. Structure before strategy, always. Today, the standard has a face I have known my whole life. My guest is my little sister, Clauder Clerphon, the founder of Young Queens Rising. Full disclosure. And I say that with pride. She is a Build Your Own client. I helped set the foundation under the business you are about to hear. So this is family, and it is proof in the same chair. Clauder Clerphon is the founder of Young Queens Rising, a business that serves Haitian newcomer girls and women across Massachusetts through programs like Allo Allo, Nou La, which means hello, hello, we are here, and a support group called Nou Parler, Let Us Talk. By day, she is the Community Resource Program Manager at a Center for Workforce Development at William James College. She holds a bachelor's degree in International Business and Management from Suffolk University and a master's degree in Gender and Cultural Studies from Simmons University. Suffolk named her its 10 under 10, which means that 10 people that graduate under 10 years ago that have made an impact in the world. What sets this conversation apart is not just who she serves, how she built the vehicle to serve them. She did not start a nonprofit like everybody would have probably done. She built a business, secured fiscal sponsorship, and created a business model where organizations and corporations fund her to do the work. The people she serves never write a check. This is the structural innovation this episode is about. Clauder, welcome to the Build Your Own Podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It is an honor to be here in the guest seat.
Well, thank you. You can relax today. I know that I said a lot. You are my sister, but I found that it was fit to bring you in because you're very unique and your business model is not something that a lot of people know about, because a lot of us have a heart for any type of anything that we want to put our mind into, where we want to serve. Any time you see injustice or anything that hurts you, where you would want to give back in the world, often that never becomes an organization. But you channel that and you turn it into an organization, and that was able to run successfully. So I thought it was fit that you come here and teach someone else that has that burden for a cause and to know how they can bring forth a business. So, Massachusetts is home to about 80,000, not even 80,000, more than 80,000 Haitian residents. This is the second largest Haitian population in the country. More than half are women, according to the U.S. Census Bureau. You built a business that serves Haitian newcomer girls and women across the state. So tell me, Clauder, what was the burden you were carrying for these girls and women before Young Queens Rising came about?
Great question. So I would have to go back to when I was a young girl. If anyone remembers me from high school, I was that girl that always had 10,000 siblings at school.
That's true.
And I say this because I would be going to the lower grades and gathering other girls that I would just bring under my wing. And I think that's when I realized this nurturing side of me that always wanted to guide and just be able to be that figure for someone to look up to. And I've seen this theme across my life, and specifically where I realized that this was going to become a calling was when I started my master's program. And when I worked on my thesis was Salsa, the expression of Africa. And at the end of that thesis, I expressed a wish to start a nonprofit that would specifically serve young girls. And the way that I had it framed was that I wanted to be able to be that voice for young girls as they are evolving to use salsa as a performing art, as a means to be confident, to know that this is a space that was created for them. And I figured that if I can create the space, which is a space that I yearned to have when I was evolving in the dance scene, then I would be able to bridge that sense of community and belonging for girls as they are evolving and they're learning to take up space. So that is how I realized that I had this burden in me to be able to serve girls and women.
That's beautiful. I remember you always having a little sister or a little cousin, though you're the youngest. But we're always taking someone under your wings. A lot of girls, young girls, even that feel like they're just the younger kids, they were always attracted to you. They would come tell you their problems and would feel so comfortable to just even talk to you. And that's how you know when you have mission-driven businesses, you have to know, would you say that you have to know what is your calling before you even start an organization and structure it that way?
Absolutely. I think that knowing your calling is the first thing that needs to happen in order for you to be in this industry. I realized that what moved me was a mission. Mm-hmm. And when I felt connected to the mission, then I was able to perform my best because I knew that I was giving back. Mm-hmm. I had that sense that I was contributing to a cause that was greater than myself. So absolutely, it is important to know your calling, understand what your purpose is and who it is that you're called to serve.
Mm-hmm. That's good. A lot of people carry the cause, and once they even find out that they have a calling, but very few figure out how to turn it into a business model and have a business around it. Especially when the people that you're serving, they're not the one that are able to pay. So my question to you, when did you realize that the people you were going to serve were never going to be the one paying you, or you knew that right off the bat?
I knew that right off the bat. And the reason I did is because I was previously in the nonprofit space where I was a director of programming. So I really got to be behind the scene and seeing how grants came about, how to write them, how the budget comes into play, and what does it mean also to be able to bring this work to life, and what it also takes in order to put everything together. And I say this because a lot of time in the nonprofit world, we are often working with underserved population. And when you are in this space, then you realize that the funding can never really come from those communities because they are literally underserved. And the whole purpose is to be able to pour in resources. So then it takes being creative and knowing who can you turn to as a grantor, who can you turn to as a sponsor in order to drive the work.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love how your background set the preface for you to be able to open that organization is mission driven. So let me say some data here. There are nearly about 1.5 million nonprofits in the United States right now. Most mission-driven founders assume they need to become another nonprofit in order for funders to just say yes. And you did not start as a nonprofit. You built that business. It started as an LLC, and that had a different legal vehicle to receive funding. So what had to be in place, Clauder, legally, before a funder would say yes to Young Queens Rising?
Legally, we needed to make sure that we had a fiscal sponsor.
But before that, how did you structure the business? Bring me back to the beginning before you even get to the legal fiscal sponsorship.
Right. Okay. So we had to first become an LLC, and this is where Build Your Own came in and really helped me set that foundation of applying to become an LLC, getting me my EIN number, and also figuring out what is my NACIS code, all of these things that I had no language for. However, you came in and really educated me about these things and also put that structure in place for me. And having an LLC means that you need to have your bank account and whatnot. So I'm so grateful that I got to work with you from the very beginning, where I had that structure of separation from my own finances. As before, when I was brewing this idea of starting an organization, it was just coming from my own funds that I was putting to. There was no separation. I've even been the recipient of a grant, and that grant didn't have anywhere to land but in my account.
Really?
However, once you came in and put that structure in for me, then I was able to make that separation where I was like, this is what I am starting with, and I'm putting that amount specifically in that separate account. And I knew that it was specifically tied to my business for my business expenses, and that already set me far apart than me starting with just the idea of coming up with a business and all of that.
That's good. That's good. So like now, how did it got to the point where a funder is going to say yes to you what did you have to put in place? Now that you've brought me to the journey of the beginning, and that thank you for hiring us and for build your own and laying that right foundation for you. And after I did that, you had to get that other answer that I did not have, because
Right.
that at that time I was not knowledgeable about fiscal sponsorship, and bring us into the journey of finding that business model.
Right, absolutely. So, um, this is where I say that community is important. Who you have in your corner is very important. And I would love to be able to shout out Ivana Solano. She is the founder of Love Your Magic. And that woman has been in my corner from day one. When I transitioned from being a director of program at my previous organization, she totally embraced me. And the first thing she said was, "What can I help with? What can I support you with?" And through conversations with her, then that's when she asked me if I had ever thought about fiscal sponsorship. And this is not something that I really clicked. It didn't really. I had heard of it before, but it never really clicked for me as to what that would mean for myself until she mentioned that and gave me access to resources that she had within her own organization, where I started learning about fiscal sponsorship. And when I learned about fiscal sponsorship, which by the way is when you put yourself under the umbrella of another organization that is a nonprofit and is able to receive funds on your behalf. Generally, they'll take a percentage of that to be able to manage whatever funds that they get for you and will disperse that to you. So with that being said, then came the time for me to figure out like who would be my fiscal sponsor. And I kid you not, that took me a year to even figure out who could do that on my behalf. It took myself going to other organizations that I've worked with and asking, do they offer fiscal sponsorship? And if not, would they be open to it? And it really got me to that beautiful moment where I'm going to shout out another person that has been in my corner from day one, Lina Canyon. She
That's
is
true.
the founder of the NER Collective. And I was talking to her and telling her that, as I first started my journey, I wanted to be an LLC, as I wanted to stir away from the nonprofit world, really wanting to redefine what that journey was for me. And as I'm having that conversation with her, I came to the point where I said, you know what, Lena, I'm going to become a nonprofit. I got the contact information of such and such person, and they will be able to do that for me. And she paused me. She said, wait, from the very beginning when you started Young Queens Rising, I've heard you say specifically that you wanted to redefine this space and that you wanted to do things differently. Why do you now want to become a nonprofit? And then I told her that I'm funding this work through contracts that I'm getting. So whatever money that I'm getting through my contracts, I'm allocating it to my programming. And I'm running into roadblocks where I feel like I need a more sustainable funding. And I feel that it can only come from being a nonprofit. And that moment was so beautiful because when she paused me after I said that, then she reminded me that the reason why I started this organization is because I wanted to be different. And I should not let the desire or the need for funding stop me from wanting to change the structure of what I originally wanted. And that is when she made the proposition to me to have her as my her organization, her foundation, NER Foundation, as my fiscal sponsor to be able to receive the funds on my behalf. And then they would disperse that to me, which then gives me the freedom to be able to do the things in the way that I see fit. Don't get me wrong, a nonprofit is a foundation that you can strive for. However, there are certain visions that you may have. Sometimes it may be best to go the route of a fiscal sponsorship. Also, I'm saying this as well in the sense that having a fiscal sponsor eliminates the barrier of funding that you need in order to even become a nonprofit. And the mission of Nerd Impact is to bridge that gap, because they are fiscal sponsors to a lot of artists who have barriers in order to get grants because they are not nonprofit. And we know that funding is not something that us as emerging grassroots organization have handy to be able to do certain things. So that's a barrier that it really helps you go over. And in the long run, yes, you can become a nonprofit. However, as you are just getting off the ground, sometimes it's better to have a fiscal sponsor in order to really build that foundation and leverage the funds that you can receive, and then become your own nonprofit down the road if this is what you choose.
So what you choose. Okay, you said a lot here, and I think that's good. I'm learning even more about that side of fiscal sponsorship. So I'm interested to understand the difference in structure between nonprofit and fiscal sponsorship, because you've mentioned something as you were speaking. You said the barriers. So what barriers comes in to nonprofit as someone that sat as a director of a nonprofit organization versus the founder of an organization that is a fiscal sponsor?
Great question. So as a nonprofit, you must have a board, and the board is the one that pretty much oversees you as the executive director / founder. So they have a lot of say into how you are operating. So this can be good and bad, depends on who you have as a part of your board. And sometimes as you are just starting to think about being a nonprofit, you may not directly know who would be the best people to put in your board in order to be able to drive the vision that you have. On the other hand, as a LLC that has a fiscal sponsor, the draw to it is that you are pretty much the creative director, if I may say, of how you run programming, how you choose to use the funds for that. So there's a lot more flexibility in terms of what you want in terms of your day-to-day operation. So those would be the main differences that I would highlight between having a fiscal sponsor versus being a nonprofit. Another thing that I would add as well, as when it comes to being under a fiscal sponsorship, you are able to decide what kind of grants that you want to go for. And you are able to filter through what are the limitations that you want to have in that said grant and what limitation that you don't. Nonprofits are able to do it as well, but I just feel that when you have a fiscal sponsor, then it allows you to maneuver the funds a little bit more creatively than if you were in a nonprofit where you may have certain requirements of grants that you need to abide by.
So when you talk to certain grants that you need to abide by, as you receive funds through fiscal sponsorship, do you have to report an answer to anyone once that money has been given to you?
Absolutely, you still do. However, and the way that the reporting goes is that you get to filter through a lot more
Mm-hmm.
with what you choose to do with the funds when it comes to your programming. You still have to report, but then again, you get to be in the driver's seat where you can maneuver around because you get to curate the type of grants that you want to be able to apply for.
I love this. So, 3 times as many fiscal sponsorship programs were created in the last 20 years than in the past 40 years. So, there's a demand in the United States right now. What did it actually take you to secure it once you told NER Foundation, I would like to become a fiscal sponsor? What did it take to actually secure that, to finalize that? What were the criteria from her end to do so?
Yes. Okay. So on her end, she just needed to make sure that we had a contract stating that they would be my fiscal sponsor, and these were the requirements, these were the reporting, and it just pointed out to specifically who I needed to go to for what. And I was just shared different documents that I would need as I'm getting ready to source through different grants. So then I knew what information that they would need before I even applied for a grant. And it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward, that I needed to let them know a week or two in advance from me applying for a grant. And I needed to send them the deliverables, the summary, the proposal, just so they would have an understanding of what exactly that I was going for.
Okay, that's good. So we're going to even stop here. If you've watched so far, I would like you to do 2 things. You're going to subscribe to this channel if it's been helpful, this conversation has been helpful to you. And you're going to turn on your notification so that whenever another episode drops, you'll be the first one to be notified. So what Clauder described here is a model that a lot of people didn't hear about. So I would pause. If you have a mission that you're carrying in your heart, you want to start an organization that is going to serve a mission. So your business is going to be different right off the bat. You do not have a service or a product. You have a mission that you're serving people. So you have different decision to make. It's either you're going to start as a nonprofit, what is also called a 501c3. There are different steps to do that. We will most likely have someone on here that is going to be able to elaborate what that process looks like. But today, we're looking at that service mission-driven organization from the lens of being an actual for-profit business that has found another way to still being able to get funding through fiscal sponsorship. So the 100 largest fiscal sponsors surveyed collectively manage more than $2.6 billion in charitable assets across more than 12,000 projects. Your clients are not the girls and women you serve, as we stated. Your clients are the organization because yours is very unique. You have the flexibility to go have those other organization, corporation to fund you, just like you said, through contract, in addition to being able to get grants through fiscal sponsorship. How do you price a service when the person is receiving it that is not paying?
Pricing is very interesting. And I say that because I've had to learn what it even meant to price a service, knowing that the recipient would not be the one paying for that. And that's where mentorship comes in. I'm very grateful for the many women in my corners that have stepped up to be those figures, those guiding figures for me when it came to pricing myself. So that meant that I had meetings with those mentors and asking them, well, would you typically price a series of 5 workshops? How would you price one workshop? And what is the difference in pricing yourself as you are starting versus as someone that has been doing those workshops for many years? And I was able to gain those insights from my mentor, who I mentioned before. Her name is Ivana Solano. She is also in the same line of work as well, who gave me so many insight. Also, another mentor of mine who has been very key and instrumental to my journey and really knowing how to price those workshops is Nikki Nesbitt. I've had the honor to work with her over the past few years, and her mentorship has really allowed me to think through a budget. What does a dream budget look like? How should I be pricing my workshop? What are the expenses that I need to be thinking about, as in transportation, food, stipends, if there are any stipends going for the participants, if I'm contracting anyone as a facilitator, what that would look like. So this was information that was reaffirmed in that space. However, I was able to be exposed heavily to that structure, being a director of programming at the nonprofit, at the previous nonprofit that I was serving. So it's really the experiences from all of those different settings that has really allowed me to feel confident when it came to pricing myself for one workshop versus a series of 6 workshops, what that would look like, curriculum building, because that goes into it as well. That's one thing that folks don't take into account sometimes, that the amount of hours that it takes you to build and put together a curriculum. And also, if you are having anyone that is facilitating, training them and making sure that they are knowledgeable about this information in order to be able to relay that. So those are all things that go into it. Like your prep time goes into it. The time that you take to execute goes into it. And also debriefing afterwards as well, all goes into pricing yourself when it comes to workshops or sessions itself.
That's good. So it's a lot of different experiences that you draw from in order for you to learn how to price yourself. But we are still in the financial pillar. I did not say that previously at the beginning of the section, because we do it through the lens. At Build Your Own, we see organization through the 5-pillar lens: legal, financial, operational, organizational, and strategy. That's where a structure before strategy came about. Because if you're not structured, you are not able to strategize properly. So we've been talking about funding. We've talked about grants. And one of the vehicle in order for you to get grants is your grant, like the grant proposal that you're going to submit. So walk someone through what is inside of that grant proposal. You don't have to be an expert at this, because I know that you've had mentors to help you, but in your experience, you've won grants. So I feel like you're very well positioned to be able to talk to us about that.
Absolutely. So in a proposal, you need to think about, how do you tell your story, the story of what it is that you do, whether it's through your programming or through other services that you offer. So essentially what your proposal does is that it speaks for you in terms of, what is your mission? What is the vision? What is the impact that you've had? And it's great to also include the metrics of how you're measuring that impact as well. And who have you collaborated with? in what are the funding that you have gone after. So essentially, it's just a comprehensive document that lists everything that you have done, but in a way that is digestible to someone that is stepping in and does not know anything about your organization, about who you serve. They can quickly look at the proposal and see, all right, Young Queens Rising offers newcomer transitional services. They work on workforce development, and they also do support group. So initially, when someone is looking at that proposal, they need to clearly see what it is that you do and how you execute and how you measure your impact.
What do you know now about the financial side of doing good in an organization like that has your business model that you wish you had known when you started at the beginning? Because you said that it took you 1 year to find a fiscal sponsor. And then also like the financial side, because until then, like how did you manage your funds? So give us a lesson that you wish that you had learned financially on how to how is your organization doing financially?
Honestly, I would say that I wish I had gone the fiscal sponsorship route sooner rather than later. And the reason I say this is because the very first year of Young Queens Rising, and I mentioned this previously, I use the funds that I've received from my contracting in order to pour into the work. I quickly realized that the work that I was doing, being mission driven, did not generate much income on the receiving end, meaning on the participant and for myself as well. I've struggled in terms of knowing how to compensate myself because I would always see whatever that I'm receiving, just pouring it into the work that I was doing in my support group for the girls in shelters and also for the women group that I had as well. So I wish I had gone the fiscal sponsorship route before to be able to scope out those grants, to be able to add on to the work that I was already doing with the funds that I was receiving from my contract, just for sustainability purpose. The funds will run out. I mean, they're not there forever. So you can only imagine that your work can come to a standstill if there is no plan as to how to sustain the funding, whether it's from contracts or whether it's from grants that you are receiving. Because if you think about it, there is always a demand. There's always things that you feel like you could do. And especially in the industry that I'm in, I'm always thinking about what are the different things that the girls are in need of, that they could be exposed to, that could further advance them into better transition into life in the US, and how that can prepare them to really learn how to take up space, whether it's to be confident in an interview setting. And something concrete that I could say is, yes, I may have the funds to be able to do programming. However, I am not the master of all things. And one thing that you learn very quickly in your organization, business, whatever setting that it is that you're not the master of all things, which means that you need to be able to outsource and bring in other experts. You can't be the only voice in your organization and your business. And where I've come into standstill points is when I probably would want to hire someone that is an expert in resume writing, career coaching, and whatnot, and wanting to bring them into the space and be able to pour into the girls where I'm not able to do that due to financial constraints. So in that way, those are lessons that I would say I wish I had gone back to earlier.
That's good, because if you think about it, you've gotten the contract. So like you get paid for these contracts. And once you get paid from these contracts, now like at probably you didn't even put in that you needed to hire a professional, and then that was part of that contract. So that's where that supplemental income would come
Absolutely.
from, those grants.
Yes.
And to be able to sustain the organization. So you need them to go in tandem.
Yes.
In order for that to run. Because as I said in the beginning, I think about 72%, I don't remember the data, but a lot of mission-driven founders quietly die because, like you said, the funds run out. So
we run out quickly.
Yes, that's good. Well, we are about to go into our operational pillar. So about 92% of nonprofits in the United States operate with budgets of less than $1 million. And 68% plan to cut programs within the next 2 years, despite 71% of them seeing increased need for their services. Like you said, there's no lack of the need. It's just the funding. You've secured funding for the programs. You have even gotten a contract for computer literacy. And when you do that, when a funder says yes, what has to be in place operationally before the first dollar is spent? Because I know that you had to hire me for that and to collaborate.
From the time that you receive a yes from a sponsor or an organization that wants to work with you, one thing that you need to have in place is definitely that you are operating as an entity, whether that is a nonprofit, whether it is that you're an LLC, S Corp, you name it. You need to have that distinction, as it's how the contract will be able to be formed between you and the organization that is hiring you. And then from there, it's really at the discretion of whoever is hiring you in order, in terms of the execution itself. So they're really not involved in that. They're just, saying, hey, Young Queens Rising, I'm hiring you to do X, Y, and Z. And as Young Queens Rising, then I need to have that internal foundation of, do I need to contract out? Is it something that I'm able to do myself? Or do I need additional folks to be able to get the work done in terms of the deliverables that I've been hired to do? But really, I would say the first foundation is making sure that you are an entity of your own, and that is very distinct to you, in order for contracts to be done, and also for invoicing purposes as well. Because you can't just have a contract with an organization and sponsor, and you're having funds being deposited into your own personal bank account. Like, there needs to be a distinction, and that's the foundation that you need to have. And honestly, I feel like that makes you more credible when you have these things in place, because some organization won't even approach you if you don't have these things in place for you to even be handed a contract to begin with.
Okay, so that's good. For this contract, how do you now operate? I know that I asked you from the lens of a funder. So from the lens of the Young Queens Rising, walk me through how you operate a program. Give me an example, and like you've had to outsource, and the workflow that you've had to set up in order for that program to start and to get to the finish line.
Sure. So depending on the contract that I get, then sometimes I am the executor of this contract, or I decide that it is best that I contract someone else in order to be able to do the work in tandem of myself, or myself remove them, they execute it. So the way that I think through this is, just thinking through the type of contract. So I've had contracts where I've delivered mental health literacy workshops, and it made sense that I was the one to deliver it, just based on the amount of participants that I was going to have and the ratio that I know that I can comfortably handle. However, I had another contract, computer literacy, and that's where you came in, and I hired you as my facilitator to be able to do the class for me. And my situations were very distinct. I was 9 months pregnant, like literally on my way to maternity leave, and I knew that I needed that support, and that's how I made the decision of hiring you to be my facilitator in order to be able to make the workshop happen. And that's how I was even able to receive that contract, because I knew that I had folks outside of myself that I could contract in order to be able to deliver the service without me having to be physically present.
That's good. I love the way that you've organized your like Young Queens Rising. From the outside looking in, I know that like you're my sister, so I've seen the work how you do very organized with that organization in terms of who you hire. You even had an intern help you, and not a lot of organization thinks that when they start, they can hire an intern. They can have an intern to assist them in some to be part of the work, so they too can learn for their trade, for their the skills, let's say that the field that they're walking into, and on the other end, you do get the help that you need. So I feel like organizationally, your Young Queens Rising has set the standard and made a difference in the community, because you have to arrive with help because you're serving the girls. You even had mommy help you for some of these workshops for translation, because there's a language barrier for these women that were in shelters. You need to have someone else. So like for these organizations, you have to think about funding it right away, because you will not be able to sustain that mission if you do not have the people that are attached to help with the work and advance the work.
Absolutely. And another thing that I would add to this is that that's the number one leading cause to burnout. You just doing everything, and that's why it's so important to have a community. My husband has been very heavily involved in the backgrounds of my business as well, in terms of supporting. I'm very grateful that I was able to have that intern, Alicia. Shout out to you. She has totally embraced that role as an intern and has stepped in so gracefully to help me with the girls. And I've also had other youth that I've worked with that have expressed interest to intern or volunteer. So just know that there are folks outside of your direct circle that want to be able to contribute to the work that you are doing. So being open to that really expands your capacity, because this work is all about capacity building. Yes, you are the founder, you're the visionary, you're able to execute. However, there are folks that are outside of that are willing to support, even if it's something as little as helping you with transportation, because in this industry, often you find that there are so many barriers that you're trying to mitigate, and it really takes a village coming together in order for programming to happen.
Well, thank you, Clauder. This has been very informational. You dropped a lot of insight on how you run a mission-driven organization, because we talk so much about for-profit organization, which you are, because you have to pay yourself. You are able to still drive it out through having the foundational structure around it to you to set those perimeters in order for you to move forward. So we will now move to the strategic pillar. Fiscal sponsors and their project leaders exhibit greater racial, gender, and demographic diversity than the general nonprofit sector. The model is growing, and the funders are actively looking for the right project to back up. You positioned Young Queens Rising in a space where funders had choices about where to direct their dollars. What makes a funder choose Young Queens Rising over other option on their desk?
I would say is the impact of the work that you do. Not saying that other nonprofits don't impact those who they serve. However, I think there's beauty in the way that you are able to show and frame your impact. And I think that always speaks very loudly to a funder when it comes to choosing to invest the dollars in a cause that they feel connected to.
Well, that's good. So do you have anything, this is going to be my first time saying it. Any other questions that you feel that someone that would be starting a mission-driven organization, a question that I have not asked you that you feel that it is important right now to define and clarify for them?
I would say to really ask yourself what type of organization that you want to lead. Do you want to go against the grain, or do you want to merge in and blend in with how things are done? Are you willing to set yourself apart? And what will it take for you to give up on in order to have that organization that is setting the standard as to what it means to be in a mission-driven space?
That's good. So, Clauder, what is next? What is going on with Young Queens Rising that you have to look forward to in the next couple of years, wherever it is in the world?
Well, I am just now transitioning out of maternity leave. I am the mother to a wonderful almost 6 months old. So I am looking forward to step back into the community. We already have a graduation photo shoot scheduled here at Create Your Own Studios. One of our girls has graduated high school, which is an incredible milestone to be celebrated. I'm looking to engage them in the summer to really take advantage of the different resources that they have within the community, and also connect them to workforce development organizations as well. Really stirring them into the career path. And also I'm looking forward to being able to ground myself in the Taunton community and get to know the girls from this community and leverage the work that I've already built with the girls that I've started with. They are my fantastic force that I've started with. So I really am looking forward to expanding the work that I've done with them. So seeing them rise as the leaders that I know that they are.
That's good. Well, I'm very proud of you, of the work that you do. You've made an impact. And I say this all the time. I said, I don't know how you have the patience for this. I'm trying to.
The Lord.
I do have patience for business owners, and I don't say that I do not have patience for anything else, but I just don't have as much patience for like the crowd that you do serve, because you truly have to be invested, have a heart for it, and to be attached to that mission in order for you to bring forth that mission and serve those people well. So I don't want you to take it lightly, because we are living in one of the second largest Haitian community. And to even have made an impact on one person, it matters. Because when we came here, we wish that we had that support.
Absolutely.
We wish that we had someone that had taken us under their wing, and showed us the way, but we had to be the one to find that way and then be that path for someone else. So I do it in the business community, and you do it for girls and women. So don't take it lightly, the work that you do, and because you may not make a lot of noise online, because you actually on the ground. Me, I have to be online. I have to do so many of these things for advertisements, because that's where my next clients are. So you have to understand the marketing model for you, and that model marketing for you. And sometimes it's through having those connection and then networking with organizations that are going to be able to fund you, because those organizations are not necessarily on the internet, but it's through those workplace that you do go to, and those corporations that are going to be willing to pay you to serve these girls. So be proud of what you were able to do with the women, more so women in the shelters, because I've seen how broken a lot of them were. And for you to be able to put a smile in their face and make them feel seen, valued, and mental work, that is a lot, because we are not taught that in the Haitian community. And you're doing so for young girls. You're also doing it for adults that never thought that they had to sit down and really process their feelings and what they went through. So let us know where we can find Young Queens Rising and how we can stay connected with you.
Absolutely. So you can follow us on Instagram, Young Queens Rising. And our website will be up soon. We are working on remodeling and just sprucing up the vision of this website, so you can follow us on there. And also you can contact us at info@youngqueensrising.org.
Well, thank you, Clauder. Here's one thing this week, and it costs you nothing but honesty. We here at Build Your Own Podcast, after every episode, we're going to give you actionable items. So write down the single question a funder would ask you that you cannot answer yet. Not 10 questions, just one. That question is the gap between your work and your money. And naming it will be the first piece of your financial foundation. You do not need a team or a budget to do that today. And you have been telling yourself that you're doing some good in the community, that you're not a real business, that the structured conversation is for other people. You are exactly who this show is for. Claudia thought that she was just helping girls. She was just building a business, however. So are you going to do so. You belong here. And Claudia, thank you for stopping by the Build Your Own Podcast and trusting the platform to be able to shed light on this side of organization.
Thank you so much for having me, and also for supporting the journey. My sister has been my biggest cheerleader, so I have to say thank you to you for laying the foundation that I needed. You're literally the shoulders that I have been able to step on. So thank you so much.
You're welcome always. I'll take it so you can fly. Well, until next time, build your own. This is the Build Your Own Podcast. Remember, the foundation is your responsibility. Structure before strategy. Until next time, see you next episode.
Young Queens Rising.